The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. Tall crystal pillars reached up to a ceiling that showed the stars of 1,000 worlds. Representatives from 47 different species sat in curved rows, each group keeping to their own kind. The air buzzed with translation devices turning alien words into sounds each species could understand. Jake Morrison sat in the human section near the back. His dark suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and armor worn by the other delegates. He had been Earth's voice on the Galactic Council for 12 years now. 12 long years of trying to make the other species see humans as equals. Behind him stood Captain Lisa Hayes in her crisp blue uniform. Her hand rested on her sidearm, though weapons were supposedly forbidden in the council chambers. She had learned not to trust alien promises of safety. Her green eyes watched every movement in the hall, looking for threats that might come from any direction. The current speaker was a Zephyrian, one of the tall gray beings who claimed to be the oldest civilization in the galaxy. His voice came through the translator as cold and emotionless. The human request for mining rights in Sector 779 is denied. Their species lacks the wisdom to handle such responsibility. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The humans had found those mineral deposits. Human ships had mapped the entire sector. Human scientists had proven the mines would be safe to operate. But the Zephyrians wanted the profits for themselves. Ambassador Morrison, the council speaker called out. The speaker was a Vorthan, a species that looked like giant spiders made of metal. Do you wish to respond? Jake stood slowly. The human survey team spent 2 years mapping that sector. We followed all council regulations. We filed all the proper reports. Those deposits should belong to the species that found them. A sound like laughter came from the Korthak section. The Korthak were bear-like creatures covered in thick brown fur. Their delegate, War Chief Graxon, spoke without being recognized. Humans still think finding something means owning it. Such simple thinking from such a young species. More laughter came from different parts of the hall. Jake had heard it all before. Young species. Simple thinking. Primitive customs. The aliens loved to remind humans that they had only joined the council 300 years ago. To species that had lived for thousands of years, humans were still babies. The Korthak hegemony supports the Zephyrian decision. Graxon continued. Humans are useful for building things and growing food. They should stick to what they do best. Jake looked around the hall. The Aquatic Federation representatives floated in their water tanks saying nothing. The crystalline collective sat in perfect silence, their gem-like bodies reflecting the light. The hive mind delegates whispered among themselves in their clicking language. None of them would speak for humanity. Captain Hayes leaned forward and whispered in Jake's ear. Sir, we have 17 mining operations running in that sector already. They just voted to steal them from us. Jake nodded. He had expected this. For the past 5 years, the votes had gone against humanity more and more often. The other species were getting comfortable treating humans like servants instead of partners. The council speaker called for the next item. Motion 742 regards military command structure in the Outer Rim territories. Jake felt his stomach drop. He knew what was coming. The Zephyrian delegate stood again. The Galactic Council has decided that human military forces lack the experience needed for independent command. All human ships and personnel in the Outer Rim will be placed under Zephyrian authority. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. The Outer Rim was where most human colonies were located. Millions of human families lived there, protected by human ships and human soldiers. Now the aliens wanted to control those defenses. Captain Hayes stepped forward. That's impossible. Human crews won't take orders from alien commanders. Our people won't stand for it. War Chief Graxon laughed again. Human feelings are not our concern. The Council has voted. Your primitive military thinking has no place in modern warfare. This vote hasn't happened yet, Jake said, his voice getting louder. The human delegation demands to be heard. The OME. Council speaker's metal legs clicked on the floor. The preliminary vote was held yesterday during the closed session. Humans were not invited because this decision affects military matters above your current clearance level. Jake stared at the speaker. Our clearance level? We're full members of this council. Junior members. the Zephyrian corrected. Your species was granted junior status when you joined. Full membership requires a unanimous vote from all senior species. Nobody ever told us we were junior members, Captain Hayes said. The Vorthan speaker made a sound that might have been a sigh. Surely you understood your position. Humans have been useful contributors to galactic society, but you lack the wisdom that comes with age. Your military record shows only conflicts with your own species. You have no experience with real warfare. Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. Real warfare. The aliens were talking about the wars humans had fought among themselves before joining the galaxy. They acted like those conflicts meant nothing. Like the millions who had died teaching humanity about war had died for nothing. The final vote will now be held, the speaker announced. All senior species will vote on motion 742. One by one, the alien delegates voted. The Zephyrians voted yes. The Korthak voted yes. The Aquatic Federation voted yes. Even species that had never spoken to humans before voted to strip them of their military independence. When the vote was finished, 38 species had voted yes. Only the humans voted no, and their vote didn't count. Jake looked around the hall at the faces of beings he had tried to work with for 12 years. He saw satisfaction on some faces, indifference on others. Not one of them looked sorry for what they had just done. Captain Hayes put her hand on Jake's shoulder. Sir, what are your orders? Jake gathered the papers on his desk. His hands were steady, but his voice was quiet and cold. Pack everything. We're going home. He stood and spoke, loud enough for the entire hall to hear. The human delegation withdraws from this council. Earth will have no further contact with any of your species. The hall fell silent. Jake walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. Captain Hayes followed, along with the dozen other humans who had been working with the council. As they reached the great doors, Jake heard the Zephyrian delegate call out. You cannot simply leave. There are procedures, there are treaties. Jake stopped and turned around. You just voted that humans don't understand real procedures or real treaties, so we'll do this the human way. He walked out of the hall and didn't look back. Behind him, the alien delegates sat in confused silence, wondering what they had just done. None of them understood that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council. The news had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, but most alien species thought it was just another human tantrum. They expected the humans to come crawling back, within a few weeks begging to rejoin the council. They were wrong. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defiance, watching as another convoy of human vessels passed by his position. Every day, hundreds of ships returned to human space. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, research vessels, mining platforms, all coming home. Admiral, the transport from Zephyrian space has just docked, his aide reported. That's the last group from Sector 12. Ben nodded. How many this time? 40,000 civilians, sir, plus their families. Ben did the math in his head. Over the past 6 months, they had evacuated nearly 50 million humans from alien worlds. It was the largest movement of people in galactic history, and somehow they had done it without a single incident. Dr. Amanda Foster had been the one to organize it all. She sat in her office on Earth, surrounded by screens showing ship movements across half the galaxy. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and dark circles under her eyes showed how little sleep she had been getting. Status report from Sector 15, her assistant called out. All human personnel have been evacuated from the Korthak mining stations. Amanda marked another location off her list. What about the research teams on Aquatic Federation worlds? They left yesterday. The Aquatics tried to convince them to stay, but our people followed orders. Amanda smiled for the first time in weeks. Every human was coming home, just like they had been ordered to do. No exceptions, no delays, no arguments. When humanity made a decision, they stuck to it. The aliens were starting to notice. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Prime Minister Kelvon stood in his office looking at shipping reports. The numbers made no sense. Human cargo ships had been bringing food to Zephyrian colonies for over 200 years. Now those ships had simply stopped coming. How much of our food supply comes from human worlds? He asked his aide. The young Zephyrian checked his tablet. 62% of our grain imports, sir. 75% of our protein supplies, and nearly all of our fresh fruits and vegetables. Kelvon felt a chill run down his spine. What about other sources? The Korthak produce some food, but not enough for our population. The Aquatic Federation only grows sea plants. The Crystalline Collective doesn't eat organic matter at all. Contact the Human Trade Office immediately, Kelvon ordered. His aide looked uncomfortable. Sir, we tried. The Human Trade Office on our world closed last month. All the humans left. Meanwhile, War Chief Graxon of the Korthak was having his own problems. He sat in his war room looking at reports from across his empire. His military advisors looked worried. Chief, our computer systems are failing, one of them reported. The quantum processors need rare Earth elements for maintenance, elements that only come from human mining operations. Graxon growled. Find other sources. We tried, Chief. The humans were the only ones who knew how to extract those elements efficiently. Other species buy them from human miners. Another advisor spoke up. Chief, it's not just the computers. Our ship engines use human-made parts. Our weapon systems need human maintenance codes. Our entire military depends on human technology support. Graxon slammed his fist on the table. The humans are trying to blackmail us. They'll be back. But weeks passed and the humans didn't come back. Instead, they got quieter. Human space had always been busy with alien visitors. Traders, diplomats, tourists, and researchers had moved freely through human systems for centuries. Now those systems had gone dark. No alien ships were allowed in. No communications were answered. Human space had become a black hole on galactic maps. Captain Hayes stood in the Situation Room on Earth, looking at displays showing the borders of human territory. Every entrance was now guarded by human warships, not attacking anyone, just watching and waiting. Any attempts to enter our space? She asked. 17 this week, her operations officer replied. Mostly Zephyrian traders trying to reach our agricultural worlds. We turned them all away. Did they try to force their way in? A few tried. We disabled their engines and sent them back with a message. Stay out. Captain Hayes nodded. The orders were simple. No alien ships in human space, no exceptions, no negotiations. The aliens had wanted humans to know their place in the galaxy. Now they were learning what that place really was. President Dan Cooper sat in his office in the Earth capital, reading reports from across human space. The evacuation was nearly complete. The borders were secure. Phase 1 of their plan was working perfectly. His secretary buzzed him. Sir, you have another message from the Galactic Council. What do they want this time? They're offering to negotiate. They say they might consider giving humans full membership status. President Cooper laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Tell them the same thing we've told them for 6 months. Earth has no official contact with the Galactic Council. Yes, sir. Cooper stood and walked to his window. He could see the construction yards in the distance, working day and night. Every human world was building now. Not just ships and weapons, but new technologies. Things the aliens had never seen before. Dr. Amanda Foster had finished her evacuation work and moved to a new job. She now ran the Department of Alien Analysis. Her team had spent centuries working alongside alien species, learning their weaknesses, studying their technologies, understanding their military tactics. What's our assessment? Cooper had asked her. They're more dependent on us than they realized, Amanda had replied. Remove human trade and half their economies collapse. Remove human technical support and their militaries stop working. Remove human food supplies and some of their populations face starvation. How long before they break? The Zephyrians will crack first, maybe another 6 months. The Korthak are tougher, but their military equipment will start failing soon. The smaller species are already sending desperate messages. Cooper had smiled. And Phase 2? Ready when you give the word, sir. Now looking out his window, Cooper thought about the aliens who had dismissed humanity as a junior species. They had treated humans like servants for 300 years. They had voted to strip away human independence without even letting humans speak in their own defense. Soon they would learn what it felt like to be powerless. Soon they would discover that the servants they had taken for granted were actually the masters who had been keeping galactic civilization running. The galaxy had wanted to see humanity's place in the cosmic order. Cooper was happy to show them exactly where that place was, at the top. 2 years had passed since humanity vanished from galactic society. The Galactic Council still met in their great hall, but the meetings were shorter now and filled with worried voices. The empty human section served as a constant reminder of what they had lost. On Earth, General Kate Adams walked through the massive shipyard that had once built cargo vessels and passenger liners. Now it built something very different. Sleek warships stretched as far as she could see, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything the galaxy had seen before. "How many are ready for deployment?" she asked the shipyard manager. 200 completed this month, General. Another 300 will be finished next month. Kate nodded. Every human world was building ships now. Not the slow, peaceful vessels they had used for trade, but fast attack ships designed for war. The aliens had taught humanity that respect came through strength. Humanity had learned that lesson well. Chief Engineer Roy Barnes stood in his laboratory, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that humans had collected over 3 centuries. As diplomats and traders, humans had been given access to alien science. As friends and partners, they had learned how everything worked. Now they were using that knowledge in ways the aliens never expected. "The new engines are 40% faster than anything in the alien fleets," he reported to Kate during their weekly meeting. "Our weapons hit harder, and our shields are stronger. Plus, we have one advantage they don't know about." "Which is?" Roy smiled. "They can't see us coming. Our stealth technology is based on crystalline collective science, but we've improved it beyond what they think is possible. Their sensors can't detect our ships until we're right on top of them." Kate felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens had shared their technology freely, never thinking that humans might use it against them. They had treated humanity like children playing with toys. Now those toys had become weapons. Commander Alex Stone ran the new Human Defense Corps training center. Every day, thousands of young humans learned to fight using everything humanity had discovered about their former allies. Every alien weakness, every tactical mistake, every military failure from the past 3 centuries was turned into human advantage. "The Zephyrians always attack in straight lines," he told his students. "They think formations and discipline win wars. Hit them from the sides and they panic. The Korthak rely on heavy weapons and thick armor," he continued. "But their ships are slow. Fast strikes and quick retreats will wear them down. The Aquatic Federation fights in 3 dimensions, but they can't handle sudden changes in gravity. Gravity bombs will scatter their fleets." Alex had fought in human wars before joining the space service. He understood something the aliens didn't. War wasn't about having the best technology or the biggest guns. War was about knowing your enemy better than they knew themselves. President Cooper visited the training center to watch the new soldiers practice. These weren't the peaceful humans who had tried to make friends with the galaxy. These were warriors trained to fight and win against species that had ruled space for thousands of years. "How long before they're ready?" he asked Alex. "They're ready now, sir. The question is whether you want to use them." Cooper watched the training exercises. Human pilots flew attack patterns that would confuse alien commanders. Human soldiers practiced boarding actions against alien ship designs. Human tacticians planned battles using detailed knowledge of every alien military system. "The aliens are starting to panic," Cooper said. "Our intelligence reports show food riots on Zephyrian worlds. The Korthak military is having equipment failures across their entire fleet. 3 smaller species have collapsed entirely." Alex nodded. "They're weak now, sir. If we're going to act, this is the time." But Cooper wasn't ready yet. Phase 2 wasn't about attacking the aliens. It was about showing them that humanity could attack whenever they chose. Fear was more powerful than actual war. The first sign came when a Zephyrian exploration fleet disappeared near the edge of human space. 12 ships had been sent to see if humans were still there. None of them came back. No distress signals, no wreckage, no trace of what had happened to them. Captain Steve Miller commanded the human patrol that had intercepted them. His orders were simple: no witnesses, no evidence, no mercy. The Zephyrians never knew what hit them. "Clean sweep," he reported to Admiral Carter. "Enemy vessels eliminated, no trace left behind." "Excellent," Carter replied. "Proceed to the next patrol zone." Similar incidents began happening across the galaxy. Alien ships that ventured too close to human space simply vanished. The aliens had no idea what was happening to them, but they began to suspect the worst. War Chief Graxon called an emergency meeting of his military leaders. His empire was falling apart, but he still had enough ships to scout human territory. "Send a fleet to the human border," he ordered. "I want to know what they're doing in there." 3 days later, his scouts returned with terrifying news. Human ships were everywhere. Not cargo vessels or passenger liners, but warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all painted black and bristling with weapons. "They're just sitting there," his scout captain reported, "watching us. When we tried to get closer, they followed us. When we tried to retreat, they followed us. They never attacked, but we could feel them watching." Graxon felt fear creep into his heart. The humans weren't hiding anymore. They were showing themselves, letting the galaxy know they were ready for war. The Galactic Council received reports from across alien space. Human fleets had appeared at the edge of every major system. Not attacking, not communicating, just waiting. The psychological effect was devastating. Prime Minister Kelvon stood before the council, his gray skin pale with worry. "They could destroy us whenever they choose," he said. "Our fleets are weakened by equipment failures. Our populations are hungry because food shipments stopped. Our economies are collapsing because trade networks are broken." "What do they want?" asked the Aquatic Federation representative. "We don't know," Kelvin replied. "They won't talk to us, they won't negotiate, they just watch and wait." The council speaker clicked his metal legs nervously. "Perhaps we should offer them full membership, equal voting rights, equal representation." "We tried that," Kelvon said. "They ignored our messages." The truth was starting to sink in. Humanity didn't want to rejoin the galactic community as junior partners or even as equals. They wanted something else entirely, something that made the alien leaders wake up at night. In cold sweats, they wanted to be in charge. Dr. Amanda Foster sat in her office reading intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Alien governments were unstable. Alien militaries were weakened. Alien populations were scared and hungry. Everything was going according to plan. "Phase 3 is ready to begin," she reported to President Cooper. Cooper smiled. Phase 3 would be the final test. Humanity would show the galaxy that they could end alien civilization whenever they chose. Not through conquest or invasion, but through something much simpler: by refusing to help. The Korthak homeworld had not seen fear like this in 1,000 years. War Chief Graxon stood on his command tower, looking up at the night sky where human ships hung like dark stars. They had arrived 3 days ago, appearing without warning, just outside the planet's atmosphere. "How many?" Graxon asked his military advisor. 215 warships, Chief." "Maybe more. Our sensors can't get accurate readings." Graxon growled low in his throat. The humans weren't attacking. They weren't making demands. They were just there, watching his world like predators deciding when to strike. The psychological pressure was breaking his people's spirit. Captain Steve Miller commanded the human fleet surrounding the Korthak homeworld. His orders were clear: demonstrate power without using it. Show the aliens that humanity could end their civilization with a single command. "Sir, we're receiving multiple communications from the planet," his communications officer reported. "They want to negotiate." "Ignore them," Steve replied. "We're not here to talk." On the planet below, millions of Korthak looked up at the human fleet with growing terror. Their own warships were hiding in the outer system, afraid to approach. Their planetary defenses were useless against ships they couldn't even target properly. The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. Human fleets had positioned themselves outside every major alien world: the Zephyrian Empire, the Aquatic Federation, the Crystalline Collective, and dozens of smaller species all found themselves under the shadow of human warships. Admiral Ben Carter coordinated the operation from Earth. Status reports came in from every human fleet commander. The aliens were panicking exactly as expected. "Admiral, the Zephyrian Prime Minister is requesting immediate talks," his aide reported. "What about the Aquatic Federation? They're offering full trade agreements, anything we want." "And the smaller species? Most of them are begging for mercy, sir." Ben nodded. Fear was a powerful weapon, and humanity was using it expertly. The aliens had spent centuries looking down on humans as primitive warriors. Now those same aliens were discovering what human warfare really meant. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Prime Minister Kelvon paced in his office while his advisors argued around him. Food riots had broken out in 3 major cities. The population was demanding action, but there was nothing he could do. "Can our fleet fight them?" he asked his military commander. "Our ships are falling apart, sir. Without human technical support, half our weapons don't work properly. Without human supply lines, we're running out of fuel and spare parts." "What about allies? Can other species help us?" "Everyone is in the same situation, sir. The humans have made sure of that." Kelvon stared out his window at the human ships hovering in the sky. Each one was larger than his biggest warship. Each one carried enough firepower to level entire cities, and there were hundreds of them. "Send another message," he ordered. "Tell them we're willing to discuss any terms they want." The message was sent, but like all the others, it received no reply. Dr. Amanda Foster sat in the Human Strategic Command Center, watching displays that showed the entire galaxy. Every alien government was sending desperate communications. Every alien military was in chaos. Every alien population was scared and angry. "Economic collapse is accelerating," she reported to President Cooper. "Without our trade networks, most alien currencies are worthless. Without our food supplies, several species are facing starvation. Without our technical support, their infrastructure is failing." Cooper studied the reports. "How long before complete societal breakdown?" "The Zephyrians have maybe 6 months. The Korthak are tougher, but their military will be completely non-functional. Within a year, the smaller species are already collapsing." "And our fleet demonstrations?" Amanda smiled. "Working perfectly. The aliens are terrified. They know we could destroy them, but they don't know why we haven't done it yet. The uncertainty is driving them crazy." Cooper nodded. Uncertainty was the key. If humanity had simply attacked, the aliens would have fought back with everything they had. Instead, humanity was letting the aliens destroy themselves with fear and economic collapse. Commander Alex Stone received a priority communication from Earth. Phase 4 was beginning. It was time to show the aliens exactly how helpless they really were. "All units, this is command," he broadcast to every human fleet. "Begin demonstration protocols." Across the galaxy, human ships began moving, not attacking, but showing off their capabilities in ways designed to terrify alien observers. Above the Korthak homeworld, Captain Steve Miller ordered his fleet into attack formation. The ships moved with perfect precision, their weapon systems powering up and targeting every military installation on the planet below. "Sir, they're locking onto our defense platforms," the Korthak military advisor reported to Graxon. "Are they firing?" "No, sir, they're just aiming." Graxon watched in horror as human targeting beams painted every important building in his capital city. Government centers, military bases, power plants, communication hubs, all marked for destruction. The humans could end Korthak civilization in minutes if they chose to, but they didn't fire. They just held their targets, letting the Korthak imagine what would happen if they pulled the trigger. Similar demonstrations happened everywhere. Human ships showed they could bypass alien defenses, destroy alien infrastructure, and eliminate alien governments whenever they wanted. The message was clear. Alien survival depended entirely on human mercy. The Galactic Council held an emergency session, but it was nothing like the grand assemblies of the past. Only half the species were represented. The others were too busy, dealing with internal collapse to send delegates. "We have to surrender," Prime Minister Kelvon said bluntly. "Complete surrender. Give them whatever they want." "What do they want?" asked the Aquatic Federation representative. "We don't know," the council speaker replied. "They won't communicate with us." War Chief Graxon's image appeared on the council's communication screen. He looked older and more tired than anyone had ever seen him. "My military advisors say the humans could conquer our entire empire with a single fleet," he reported. "Our weapons can't hurt their ships. Our defenses can't stop their attacks. We are completely at their mercy." The council sat in silence. For the first time in galactic history, the species that had ruled space for millennia were facing extinction. Not from some unknown alien threat, but from the same humans they had dismissed as primitive and unworthy. "There is one option," Prime Minister Kelvon said quietly. "We could try to make contact through unofficial channels. Find someone who might be willing to talk." "Who?" asked the speaker. "Jake Morrison, the human ambassador who walked out of this chamber 3 years ago." The council members looked at each other. Morrison was the man they had insulted and dismissed. He was the last person who would want to help them. But he was also their only hope. "Find him," the speaker ordered. "Offer him anything, everything. Just make him listen." None of them noticed the irony. The species that had treated humans as junior partners were now begging their former victims for mercy. The galaxy had wanted to teach humanity about power and respect. Instead, humanity had taught them. Jake Morrison stood in his small office on Earth, looking at the message that had just arrived. After 3 years of silence, the aliens wanted to talk. The same beings who had called humans primitive and unworthy were now begging for his help. He read the message again. It was from Prime Minister Kelvon of the Zephyrian Empire, written in the most respectful language Jake had ever seen from an alien. They were offering him anything he wanted if he would just agree to meet with them. Captain Hayes entered his office without knocking. She had been promoted to general, but she still preferred to work directly with Jake when possible. "Sir President, Cooper wants to see you," she said. "The alien message has been forwarded to the highest levels." Jake nodded. He had expected this. For 3 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. The aliens were broken, scared, and desperate. Now it was time to decide their future. President Cooper sat behind his desk in the Earth Capitol building, surrounded by his top advisors. General Adams was there, along with Dr. Foster and Admiral Carter. They had all been waiting for this day. "Jake," Cooper said as he entered, "the aliens want you to negotiate with them. Are you willing?" Jake looked around the room at the faces of people who had worked tirelessly to bring humanity to this moment. "What are our terms?" Dr. Foster opened a thick folder. "Complete restructuring of galactic government. Humanity becomes the senior partner in all alliances. All alien military forces are reduced to local defense only. All major trade routes go through human-controlled space." "What about their independence?" Jake asked. "They keep their worlds and their governments," Admiral Carter replied. "But they follow human leadership in all interspecies matters. No more Galactic Council. No more votes against human interests." Jake understood. Humanity wasn't interested in ruling alien worlds directly. They wanted something more elegant. They wanted the aliens to rule themselves while always remembering who really held the power. "There's one more thing," President Cooper said. "We want formal acknowledgement that humanity is the dominant species in this galaxy. Not equals, not partners, but leaders." Jake nodded. It was harsh, but it was exactly what the aliens had taught humanity to demand. Respect through strength, power through fear, leadership through superior ability. The meeting was arranged to take place on Nexus Prime, the same world where the Galactic Council had met for thousands of years. But this time, the Great Hall was nearly empty. Only the most desperate alien leaders had come, and they brought no guards, no advisors, no symbols of power. Jake entered the hall wearing the same simple dark suit he had worn 3 years earlier. Behind him walked General Hayes and a small group of human officials. They were vastly outnumbered by the alien delegates, but everyone in the room knew who held the real power. Prime Minister Kelvon stood as Jake approached. The proud Zephyrian leader looked older and more tired than Jake remembered. His gray skin was pale, and his hands shook slightly as he spoke. "Ambassador Morrison," he said formally. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Jake took his seat. At a small table that had been placed in the center of the hall, the alien sat in a semicircle around him like students waiting for a teacher to speak. "I'm not an ambassador anymore," Jake said quietly. "I'm here as a representative of humanity, nothing more." War Chief Graxon leaned forward. The massive Korthak looked smaller somehow, diminished by the events of the past 3 years. "What does humanity want from us?" Jake looked around the hall. These were the same beings who had laughed at human concerns, dismissed human capabilities, and voted to strip away human rights. Now they sat before him like beggars, asking for charity. "You taught us that respect must be earned," Jake said. "You showed us that power is the only thing that matters in galactic politics. You demonstrated that the strong make the rules and the weak follow them." The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They recognized their own words being used against them. "So here are humanity's terms," Jake continued. He placed a single document on the table. "The new Galactic Compact. Humanity will resume trade relations and provide technical support to all species that sign this agreement." Prime Minister Kelvon reached for the document with trembling hands. As he read, his face grew even paler. "This makes humanity the senior species in all galactic matters," he said. "Yes," Jake replied. "Human military forces will patrol all major space routes. Yes. All interspecies disputes will be decided by human arbitrators. Yes. And any species that violates this compact will be cut off from all human contact permanently." Jake nodded. "You wanted to know humanity's place in the galactic order. Now you do." The Aquatic Federation representative spoke from her water tank. "What if we refuse?" Jake looked at her with no emotion in his eyes. "Then you continue living under the current situation. No trade, no technical support, no contact with humanity. Your civilizations continue to collapse while we prosper." The threat was clear. Sign the compact and live under human leadership, or refuse and watch their species die slowly from isolation and economic collapse. War Chief Graxon was the first to sign. His proud warrior culture had been completely broken by humanity's demonstration of superior power. The Korthak hegemony accepts these terms. One by one, the other alien leaders signed the document. The Zephyrian Empire, the Aquatic Federation, the Crystalline Collective, and every other species represented. They had no choice. Prime Minister Kelvon was the last to sign. His hand shook as he wrote his name. The Zephyrian Empire formally acknowledges humanity as the dominant species in this galaxy. Jake collected the signed document and stood up. Humanity will begin resuming limited trade relationships within 30 days. Full relations will be restored gradually as you prove your commitment to this new arrangement. As he walked toward the exit, Jake heard Kelvon call out behind him. "Ambassador Morrison, will humanity be fair in its leadership?" Jake stopped and turned around. "Humanity will treat you exactly as well as you treated us when you held power. We learned everything we know about galactic politics from you." The aliens sat in stunned silence as Jake left the hall. They understood the message perfectly. They would receive the same mercy and respect they had shown humanity during 3 centuries of second-class citizenship. None at all. General Hayes walked beside Jake as they left the building. "Sir, do you think they'll honor the agreement?" Jake looked up at the sky where human warships hung like dark clouds. "They don't have a choice. We made sure of that." The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Humanity had returned to galactic society, but not as the junior partners they had once been. They were now the undisputed masters of known space. Human colonies expanded rapidly into former alien territory. Human fleets patrolled trade routes that were now humanity's to control. Human arbitrators settled disputes between species that had once considered themselves humanity's superiors. The galaxy had taught humanity that power was the only thing that mattered. Humanity had learned that lesson perfectly. Now they were the teachers and the rest of the galaxy were their students. The age of human dominance had begun, not through conquest or invasion, but through the simple demonstration that sometimes the only way to earn respect is to show that you don't need it. The beings who had once dismissed humans as primitive had learned what true civilization looked like. It looked like knowing when to walk away from the table and having the strength to build your own.